I froze. That video was never meant to be seen, especially not by him. But he didn't look away. And I didn't move. One moment, one choice. And I didn't stop him. I should have. But something in me wanted to watch. I never thought I'd confess this. Not to anyone. Not even to myself. It happened last fall. At the lake house. My ex-husband's family cabin, isolated. Quiet. Surrounded by trees that whispered secrets in the wind. He asked me to check on it before the sale. Caleb, his son, offered to join me, said it would be a nice getaway. I agreed. Perhaps I shouldn't have. The first day was uneventful. We unpacked, shared a simple dinner, and reminisced about old times. The air was crisp, the leaves turning shades of amber and crimson. That night, I struggled to sleep. Memories flooded back, of a life once lived, of choices made and paths taken. The next morning, I decided to take a walk by the lake. The water was calm, reflecting the overcast sky. As I returned, I noticed the cabin was eerily silent. I approached cautiously, sensing something was amiss. Through a slightly ajar door, I saw him, Caleb, engrossed in a video on his laptop. My video, one I thought had been erased long ago. His actions were deliberate, his. Before that weekend, my days blurred into each other, quiet, numb, forgettable. After the divorce, I kept the house but lost the warmth. The rooms felt hollow. My son had already moved out. My friends had their own lives. And David, well, he had moved on faster than I expected. The lake house was the last shared asset. He wanted to sell it, erase what little remained of us. I understood. Still, it hurt. He asked me to check on it one last time. Said the realtor needed updated photos. Caleb offered to come with me. Said he needed a break from city life. It sounded harmless enough. Caleb had always been polite. Distant. We were never close. But there was never any tension. At least, not until lately. His presence lingered longer in the room. His glances held a weight I didn't fully understand, or maybe I refused to. I told myself it was my imagination. That I was reading into things because I was lonely. And God, I was so lonely. I had become invisible, not in a tragic way. Just quietly faded from everyone's center. That's the version of me who stepped into that cabin. Hollowed out, unseen, almost too easy to forget. Caleb had always been a quiet kid, well-mannered, self-contained, even when he was a teenager. He never acted out, never raised his voice. David used to brag about how disciplined he was. How focused. He takes after me, he'd say. Maybe that was true. Maybe that was the problem. After the divorce, Caleb and I rarely spoke. Just the occasional birthday text or holiday greeting. So when he offered to join me at the lake house, I was surprised. A little hesitant, too, but I said yes. I didn't want to be alone out there. Not completely. At first, things felt normal, polite, distant, but comfortable enough. But over the past few months, something had shifted. He watched me longer than necessary. He lingered in doorways. His compliments came softer, closer, the kind that made you question their meaning. One night, a week before the trip, he called me beautiful out of nowhere. I laughed it off, blamed the wine, but I remembered it, the way he said it, the way he looked at me like he meant it. Not as a stepson, not even as a friend, as a man. I tried to ignore it. I told myself he was just being kind, that I was imagining things. But that look, it stayed with me. I saw it again at the cabin. Stronger, bolder, and deep down, I didn't feel afraid. I felt seen. It rained that night, not the soft kind that soothes you to sleep, but a steady, insistent pour that tapped against the windows like it wanted in. The power flickered twice before cutting out completely. We were left in the quiet hum of candlelight and wet pine-scented air. Caleb was in the living room reading. I was upstairs, pretending to sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop. The house felt too still, too intimate. Every creak in the floorboards echoed louder than it should have. I got up to check the fuse box in the hallway closet. Just in case. As I passed Caleb's door, I heard something, soft, rhythmic. At first I thought he was talking on the phone. Then I heard it again. Not words. A low sound. A breath. A moan. I froze. I don't know why I didn't keep walking. I should've, but something in me paused. The door was cracked open just enough. I looked. And that's when I saw it, him. Sitting at the edge of the bed, shoulders tense, one hand buried between his legs, eyes fixed on a screen. Then I saw the video. My video. A flash of my face, my voice, my body, naked, exposed, forgotten years ago, something I thought was gone. I gasped, barely audible, but it was enough. He turned his head. Our eyes met. He didn't stop. He didn't even flinch. I should have turned away. That's the first thing I remember thinking, screaming. Really, in my mind. Just close the door, walk away, pretend I didn't see any of it. Pretend he didn't see me, but I didn't move. My feet stayed planted, like the floor had swallowed me whole. My breath caught in my throat. The flickering light from his screen lit up the sharp planes of his face. The curve of his mouth parted in shock, or maybe amusement. And on the screen, me, younger, brazen, unapologetic, a version of myself I had buried years ago. Caleb didn't say a word. He just kept going. Slowly, deliberately, watching me watch him. It was wrong. Every cell in my body knew that. But there was something else too, something primal. I felt heat crawl up my neck, down my spine, settling between my legs like shame set on fire. I hated it. I craved it. I didn't understand any of it. He whispered my name, barely audible, but it shattered the silence. Diane? That broke me. I stepped inside, not all the way, just 1 foot past the threshold. Just enough to feel the air shift. Just enough to make it real. I didn't mean, I started. But the lie caught in my throat. He stood up, slowly, calmly, and I could see it in his eyes, the hunger. The boldness. Not a boy, not a child, a man who knew exactly what he was doing. He closed the door behind me. I didn't stop him. The air felt thicker the moment the door clicked shut behind me. Caleb didn't touch me, not right away. He stood there, chest rising, lips parted, waiting, like he was giving me the chance to undo it all. To walk out, to pretend none of it had happened. But I didn't. I couldn't. I don't know what part of me moved first. My hand? My breath? All I remember is the silence stretching like a wire between us, taut. Electric, trembling with everything unspoken. He stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a wild animal that might run. Or bite. His fingertips brushed mine, just that. But my body jolted, like I'd been shocked. I looked up and saw his face, hesitant. But not uncertain. I reached out. My hand grazed his cheek. Then slid down, tentative, unsure. My pulse roared in my ears. I wasn't thinking, or maybe I was thinking too much, about how long it had been since someone had looked at me like this. Touched me without duty, desired me without expectation. He leaned in, breath warm against my jaw. You don't have to, he whispered. That should have stopped me. It didn't. My mouth found his before I could answer. Soft, searching, terrified, alive. When he kissed me back, everything inside me shattered. Guilt, logic, restraint, they all dissolved into the heat of his hands on my waist. The press of his chest against mine. The way our bodies remembered what our minds tried to forget. I didn't recognize the sounds coming from me. They weren't words, just breath and need and release. I was no longer the woman who played by rules. I was just a woman. Wanting, breaking. By the time it ended, we were both breathless. And the silence afterward was louder than anything that came before it. I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, wrapped in a tangle of sheets and shame, listening to the wind outside and the silence inside. Caleb had gone back to his room without a word. The click of his door closing echoed like a verdict. My body still hummed, my skin still remembered, but my mind wouldn't stop. What had I done? I kept replaying it, his voice, his hands, The way I leaned into him like it was inevitable. Like I'd been waiting for it. I wanted to pretend it was some sort of dream. A fevered hallucination brought on by loneliness, by wine, by the storm. But it wasn't. It happened. Every aching, burning, breathless second of it. When morning came, I didn't move. I watched the light shift across the ceiling. Waited for the shame to harden into resolve. It didn't. It sat heavy on my chest like wet stone. Eventually, I pulled myself out of bed. I avoided the mirror. I didn't want to see her, the woman who let this happen. The woman who wanted it. Downstairs, Caleb was already in the kitchen. Shirtless, calm, like nothing had happened. He poured coffee like we were just two people waking up after a storm. He looked up, smiled. Morning. I froze. He didn't flinch, didn't apologize, just leaned back against the counter. Casual, confident, like he owned the room and the truth between us. I mumbled something, maybe, morning, maybe nothing. My mouth was dry, my hands trembled. He handed me a mug. Our fingers brushed. That spark again. And I hated myself for feeling it. I told myself it was over. That it had been a mistake, a single, shameful moment that would be buried under silence and guilt. I would stay distant. I would keep things polite. I would pretend it never happened. But pretending only works when both people are pretending. Caleb didn't change. If anything, he grew bolder. His glances lingered longer. He brushed past me in narrow doorways. Let his fingers graze my back as if by accident. His voice lowered when he spoke to me. Every word laced with memory. My memory. And I felt it, how my body betrayed me. How my skin lit up where he touched. How my breath caught when he looked at me like he knew things I didn't want anyone to know. One afternoon, I found him outside chopping firewood. Shirtless, glistening with sweat. He caught me watching, didn't speak, just smiled, slow and knowing. I turned away, furious with myself. That night, I avoided dinner, stayed upstairs, lights off. I needed distance, time to gather whatever strength I had left. But even from the bedroom, I could feel him, his presence, his pull. A soft knock came. I didn't answer. The door creaked open anyway. He stood there, barely lit by the hallway light, eyes dark and unflinching. "Diane," he said softly, "you don't have to be afraid." "I'm not," I whispered, though my hands trembled. He stepped closer. "Then say it. Say you don't want me." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because I did want him. And he knew it. "I can't," I finally said, barely audible. He reached for my hand. I pulled back, not hard. Just enough to make it clear I was trying. But not enough to stop him. I closed my eyes, hoping he'd leave. He didn't. He kissed me again. And I let him. I didn't hear the car. I didn't hear the front door. All I heard was Caleb, his breath against my ear. The weight of him on top of me. The way he whispered my name like a secret he owned. We were on the living room couch. I don't even remember how we got there. It was all a blur, heat, need, the aching relief of giving in. And then the sound. The sharp intake of breath. I turned my head, instinctively, and there he was. David. My ex-husband stood frozen in the doorway. Keys still in his hand. Suitcase at his feet. His face, a mask of disbelief slowly cracking into horror. Time didn't move. None of us did. Caleb didn't even flinch. He stayed right where he was. His body still tangled with mine. His hand still gripping my thigh like none of this was wrong. I scrambled to cover myself. Heart pounding so violently it hurt. "David," I started, but there were no words. Nothing I could say would unsee what he had seen. His eyes met mine, wide and shattered. Then he looked at Caleb. Something between betrayal and rage flickered in his expression. He didn't yell. He didn't speak. He turned around and walked out the door. The silence that followed was deafening. David never came back. He didn't call. Didn't ask for an explanation. A week later, a lawyer emailed me the final papers for the cabin sale. No message, no signature, just closure, in the coldest form possible. Caleb left the next morning. He didn't say goodbye, just tossed his bag in the back of his car and drove off like he'd been waiting for that exact moment to escape. I stood at the window and watched his taillights fade into the trees. And then it was just me. Alone in the cabin. Alone in my choices. I tried to make sense of it, of him, of me, of everything that burned through those few days like a fever I couldn't contain. Maybe I was grieving the life I lost. Maybe I just wanted to feel wanted. Maybe I was both the victim and the one holding the match. I don't know what he meant to prove. I don't know what I meant to him. But I know what I saw in my own eyes that night, when I finally looked in the mirror. A stranger. Not broken, not evil, but altered, like a boundary I thought I'd never cross had been erased in the dark. So tell me, if it were you, would you have stopped it? Or would you have stepped through the door like I did? And the worst part? Not that I lost David. Not that I broke every rule I swore I'd never touch. It's that some nights, when it's quiet, I still think about him. And I hate that part of me doesn't want to forget.